We have in our tradition, the religious tradition, this idea that we have, they call it in Hebrew, Yetzer Tov, Yetzer Hara, a positive inclination and a negative inclination. The inner voice that is moral and helps you gravitate towards the productive and the loving and the kind, and opposite inclinations. And I think what you're teaching us here is, and perhaps this is the future of enlightened and expansive redemptive consciousnesses, that what we always call the evil or negative inclination is really much more about the part of us that simply doesn't have the ability, doesn't have the skill.
Let me give you just one very concrete example. We all do have evil inclinations, or what I would call impulses that are not wonderful impulses. Yes. And what we do as adults is we check those impulses. And that's a skill. It's called impulse control. Most 2- and 3-year-olds don't have impulse control. They have lots of inclinations that aren't so wonderful, and they act upon them immediately, right? The older we get, if all goes well developmentally, we develop better skills at controlling our impulses. But the impulses haven't gone away. They're there. We control them. I always tell people, imagine that as you go through your day that you did or said the first thing that came to your mind throughout the course of the day. And some people find themselves very amused by this. But most people also realize the world would be a very unpleasant place to be in if we all said and did the first thing that came to our mind. So the inclination's there, but we use skills to, for instance, control those impulses. Now, if I can take it one step further, here's the sad irony. There's a whole bunch of kids who might be 7, let's say, but have a 2-year-old's impulse control. Or maybe they're 15 and have an 8-year-old's impulse control. So there's a developmental lag there. So they do a bunch of stuff they shouldn't do. And then what do we historically do? We punish them, which is sadly ironic because punishments require impulse control to be effective in the first place. In other words, the next time that child's going to do something you don't want them to do, that you punished them for, they need to stop in the moment and say to themselves, okay, wait, if I do that, what's going to happen? Oh, right. I'm going to get that punishment that I got on last Tuesday, which I really didn't like. So instead of doing that thing, I'm going to do something else. In other words, they must have the impulse control to benefit from the consequence in the first place, which is sadly ironic because the kids who get the most consequences are the kids without much impulse control, who can't even benefit from the consequences.
Wow. So you're teaching us that all this research is showing us that when I'm relating to my children or my student or any child, I always want to come from a place of really believing in their goodness, in their willingness to do the right thing, the good thing, the productive thing. And if that's not happening, I want to ask, what is bothering them? What is hurting them?
Yeah, we want to start from the perspective that kids do well if they can, that all kids want to do well. And if they're not doing well, it's because they're struggling with certain skills required to do well, and or they've got good concerns, perspectives, points of views that need to be heard and need to be understood and need to be taken into consideration as we go about problem solving.